Good evening. Welcome to the Jefferson County Board of Education regular meeting on Monday, September 11th, 2023. If you'd please join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin our meeting this evening, I would like to just take a moment of silence in memory of a second student that we have lost so far this year from Jefferson High School. If you'd please join me in a moment of silence to remember Zachary Kyle, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Next up, we have the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting held August 28th, 2023, and the special board meeting held September 5th, 2023? Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Ogden, for the second. And Mr. Fogel, if there's a battery for a microphone, her microphone evidently doesn't have a battery. Any discussion on the minutes?
Yeah. I didn't see anything listed about the self-evaluation, and I had asked Hans if it was possible to make it more user-friendly for the public to find this self-evaluation, which has now been posted on the website. I just think perhaps it could be added to the minutes to let people know that the self-evaluation is now available. It can be found in board docs under the library tab. Maybe we could start doing this kind of thing with the minutes, since it's difficult for Hans to add more to his plate. That's about all. So I just think it would be nice to, when we post the minutes, if there has been a change, then, you know, something that would inform the public. It's easy to just put it in the minutes.
Well, that wasn't part of the discussion at the time, so they shouldn't be part of the record. But there's a motion to approve the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
I'm not done. Self-evaluation was a part of the discussion. It wasn't listed in the minutes at all. So I would like that added to the minutes, that we had discussed that the self-evaluation was not posted for the public as directed by state code. However, since then, it has been posted. So that was left out of the minutes, that whole discussion about the self-evaluation. My only point for bringing it up is so that the public can find things, you know, so that our website is much more user-friendly, that people are informed of things like the self-evaluation, like the when things go out for public comment. Unless you're watching a board meeting or you know somebody, it's just hard to find out about those kind of things. Some people go back and read the minutes, and I just think it would be a nice way to inform the public. But at least include in the minutes that there was a discussion about the self-evaluation not being made public.
The minutes are not a word-by-word discussion, memorialization of the discussion. That's what the live video is for. The minutes are to record actions.
Well, action was taken because that self-evaluation appeared. So the self-evaluation is there. I guess I've said enough about the self-evaluation.
The self-evaluation is on the website. It's in board docs, exactly where Berkeley and Morgan County have theirs. So there's a motion on the table to approve the minutes. Any other discussion on the minutes themselves? Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Thank you. Next, we don't have any citizens' comments this evening. Next up is the consent agenda. Mrs. Loring, welcome.
Does it go up one more?
Thank you. I'm the first one to test it tonight. I don't have any changes to the personnel actions that are presented to you this evening.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. Number 21, I'm just wondering, is this I know it says temporary, but I'm wondering, is this part of a reshuffling of the positions of middle and high school coordinator? Or is this until another coordinator is found?
It is temporary, as you referenced the acting scenario that's presented in the personnel actions, and so at this point in time, it is temporary.
Okay, thank you.
And it doesn't read temporary, it reads acting, correct?
Acting. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
So he's the middle school coordinator and acting high school
Correct.
coordinator.
Middle school coordinator, acting
Right.
high school coordinator.
Right,
That's
I just wonder, is this part of the reshuffling, or is this, until somebody's found? That's all.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the consent agenda as presented, say aye.
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 Oppose? Thank you, ma'am. All right, thank you, Mrs. Loring. Next up, we have Mrs. Edwina Benitez, the Executive Director of the JCDA, on expansion of the YMCA to Jefferson County with possible action. Good evening.
Good evening. First, thank you so much for having me here. My name is Eddie Benitez, and I'm the Executive Director of the Jefferson County Development Authority. And I'm here today to present to you a resolution to support the expansion of the YMCA into Jefferson County. So I'd like to give you a little bit of background on this, and that is I started my position in May. And I thought it was really important to start meeting with the local leaders and find out what the concerns are of Jefferson County. I was told by numerous leaders that one big need is a pool. And I think you guys can definitely agree with that you've heard that same concern. Another big concern was from leaders and employers in the county, and they were unable to find access to care that would allow them to recruit, retain, and expand a workforce. Finally, one concern that was repeatedly brought up is stuff for, and then fill in the population. Stuff for kids to do, stuff for families to do, stuff for early career adults to do, and stuff for seniors to do. One of the first things that we did since I joined the office was conduct a child care study to find out exactly what that meant. What does it mean that it's hard to recruit, retain, and expand your workforce with regard to child care? And we found out that in Jefferson County, it takes about 13.3 months between seeking care and finding care. What does that mean? Because nationally, it's talked about that it's hard to find care. Well, when we compare ourselves to Berkeley County, that same study revealed that it's 6 months, half that time that it takes in Jefferson County, and only 3 months in Frederick County. So finding care in Jefferson County is very hard. And when I hear you need a pool, you need childcare, and you need stuff for all populations to do, I hear YMCA. And so since May, I've been trying to meet with the Y about locating here and have met with them several times. They're a great crew, and the YMCA's model is that they are doing kind of a hub and spoke. So they'll take an existing YMCA and do a spoke. And so the YMCA that would service Jefferson County would be the City of Frederick's YMCA, and they've already done one spoke, and that's to the southern part of Frederick County. So the YMCA partnered with WVU Medicine to conduct a feasibility study to find out if there is marketability to expand into Jefferson County, Berkeley County, or both, with a pool, with a child care facility, and possibly a health and wellness facility. I think this is a really exciting opportunity, and have talked about this throughout the community. And in fact, a similar resolution passed last week in Bolivar, in Charlestown, and in Ransom. I think the community is getting very excited about being able to work together to attract a kind of business that really starts to meet some of the needs that are crucial here in Jefferson County. Do you have questions for me?
Yeah, I do. Who drew up the resolution? Where did it come from?
So at its very base, that's me. But in working with leaders throughout the community,
Okay.
you will see a variety of, you'll see similar resolutions throughout the county to this one.
Yeah. Did all the members of the Jefferson County Development Authority approve of that being released to the board? Or did you do that on your own?
So we spoke about it in an executive session to move forward, but we didn't vote on it because it was the day before, several days before the announcement from the YMCA. But I'll tell you that every single one on my board is super excited about this resolution and attracting the YMCA to Jefferson County.
So what does the Board of Ed have to do with this?
That's a great question. And I think it really gets back at its heart to that very beginning thing that so many leaders want in the county, and that's a pool. How is Jefferson County Public Schools going to be able to address the concern that so many parents have for a pool? In Frederick County, they were able to partner both the school and the YMCA when they tore down a school and didn't have the ability to put a pool in a new school. So they partnered, and now in the most recent YMCA I talked to you about, the school actually uses it, has a long-term contract to be able to use that pool as their school pool. So I think it's really important that we look for innovative ways to address concerns, and we all know that a pool in Jefferson County is one of those top concerns.
So you're saying that the Board of Ed, our interest would be in the pool, but what about the fact that Parks and Rec are looking into a pool, and, you know, we, the taxpayers are providing money to Parks and Rec? So what do you have to say about that?
So I went to the last stakeholder meeting for Parks and Rec, and it was repeatedly talked about that it is most likely beyond the budget that Parks and Rec will be able to build or maintain. So how then do we use something like a nonprofit to be able to attract that? And I don't want to limit this discussion just to pools, because I know we also will want to talk about things like before and after care. I'm really lucky in Frederick County that my kids are able to go to before and after care, and it's done by the Y. I understand that last time that you considered a before and after care contract, you only had one bidder at the table. Well, wouldn't it be great if you had options that you could consider who's going to provide your before and after care?
Where would be the proposed location?
Right now, it's a feasibility study to locate in the county. So it's the entire county. What they're using as their model are the 2 WVU properties. But then, if it's feasible to locate there, they'll be able to decide where they can locate in the county.
You said WVU properties?
Yes, because WVU is paying for half of the study.
Where is it? Where are they?
They
Those
have,
properties.
locations at 9 and 340 and Martinsburg.
So 9 and 340. So are you seeking any kind of financial assistance from Jefferson County?
Not today. Today, the goal is that we are able to educate everyone in the community about what a Y is, what the needs of the community are, and how the Y can help address some of those needs. You can see that that is just a resolution of support, and that's all that it is.
So in the future, you will be then?
I have no idea. A feasibility study will help make a market case.
I understand that you invited certain people to tour the facility in Frederick, I guess it was, somewhere in Maryland, and I believe one of the board members was invited. I would think that if you wanted the board to support this, that you would have invited all the board members. I'm just curious why you didn't invite all the board members.
So I invited everyone who sits on my board.
Excuse me?
Everyone who sits on my board, including the representative that you voted on to sit on my board. So that's not the end of the discussion, that's the beginning of the discussion. So I think it's really important that we kind of wrap our arms around this concept, and then we continue to have these discussions.
Who makes the final decision?
The why.
So you're asking us to agree to this that you wrote up, but no lawyer has looked at it or approved it, and it's to convince the why to choose Jefferson over Berkeley County. Is that correct?
I don't know who has looked at it on your behalf. It's just something I've submitted to you.
Yeah.
I don't know how you normally review resolutions, but I understand that this is considered in the normal, customary way.
I mean, I understand it's a religious organization, YMCA, and my concern is that maybe the school system should not be endorsing a religious organization. I know there are laws against that. I just don't know if it applies here. So I would think that we would need to, talk to a lawyer to see if we can even get involved in signing something. That's just my opinion.
I do have a question, please. Eddie,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to know, I know that you talked about the pool and you talked about the before and after care, but what else would this Y offer to our community, please?
That's a great question. So I included in the draft resume that I put together some of the classes that are offered kind of at all different age levels. The Y really likes to focus on from birth all the way through active older adult. So there are a variety of things in there. What I will tell you is the Y that I toured, the last one, is built between two schools. And when that bell rings at the end of the day, that Y is flooded with 300 kids. 300 kids that have a safe place to go after school, a safe place where they can do homework, safe place where they can play basketball. And this is for middle school and high school kids. I think the door is really open for how it would look in Jefferson County, and that's what we're hearing from the Y, is they really want to engage with stakeholders about exactly, that's kind of step two. Step one, is it feasible? If it's feasible, awesome. Now let's go ahead and engage with stakeholders about exactly how it would look.
I'm sure they're wonderful. I mean, I've heard wonderful things about the YMCA. I personally just would prefer that a lawyer look over anything that we as a board decide to endorse. I am concerned that down the line, you or someone would come back and say, okay, you all signed this, you support us, so how much money can you give us? Or, maybe the county commission, can you may turn that over to the county commission. See, the school board is endorsing it, give us money. I just don't know how much the school board should be involved. I think these are things that maybe are up to people like the county commission. I don't know for sure. I just know that I think a lawyer should look over something, because, you said you wrote it up yourself. Your own board, you're claiming, didn't approve it. No lawyer that you know of looked at it. I know of no lawyer from our board looking at it. So personally, I'm uncomfortable. It may be completely legal, but And I don't think it's going to change anything whether this board agrees to endorse it or not. I think you already have the different towns, Bolivar, Ranson, et cetera. I'm sure that they had their lawyers look at it. But nobody has advised this board as a whole. Nobody's given me advice legally.
So let me just make a clarification. This is your goal of this resolution is to show that Jefferson County, we're all holding hands, saying kumbaya, and, we all support the why. Is that correct? There's no financial promise or anything tied to this resolution of support.
Correct.
And Dr. Bishop, do you have any insight as far as the religious aspect of it?
You're not endorsing any religious aspect of the YMCA by adopting the resolution, in my opinion. It's whether or not the group could look to relocate here.
Okay. And do you mind if I just take a minute to read the resolution? Because I know we all had it last meeting, and since then it did show up on social media, but I'm not sure. Let's just go ahead and read it really quickly to get it into the record, if you don't mind. It says, whereas the YMCA is the nation's largest provider of child care programs, and whereas Jefferson County is serviced by only one year-round public pool, Shepherd University, and whereas the Y is the largest pool management agency in the world, and whereas West Virginia University Medicine identified 3 main health priorities as part of their December 2022 Community Needs Assessment for Berkeley Medical Center and Jefferson Medical Center: substance abuse and abuse, drugs, alcohol, tobacco, and vaping, obesity and chronic disease, including cancer and mental health. And whereas the YMC programs mitigate negative health outcomes by providing health and wellness training and classes for all ages from prenatal to senior. And whereas the YMCA has a variety of opportunities for families and kids, including swimming lessons, free lifeguard training, cooking classes, teens night out, chess club, art classes, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math programs, dance classes, sports league, and homeschool programming. And whereas the YMCA has a variety of opportunities for early career single adults, such as adult culinary classes, adult acting classes, introduction to watercolor painting, adult sports teams, fitness classes, and more. And whereas the YMCA has a variety of opportunities for seniors, including all of the adult programs and massage, including oncology massage, senior social breakfast, lunch and learn, such as managing hip pain and breast cancer awareness, senior yoga, warm water exercise classes, etc. Now, therefore, it be resolved, the Jefferson County Board of Education do hereby support a YMCA expansion into Jefferson County as a means to address the significant child care needs, lack of access to aquatic facilities and programs, and the need for a healthy community activities. That's what you're asking us to support this evening, correct?
Correct.
Are there any other classes or questions? Is there a motion to go ahead and support the resolution?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I personally feel that we should talk to an attorney before we endorse anything as a school board, especially since it is a Christian organization. I know that there are laws that prevent schools from getting involved in any kind of religious organization. So personally, I'm going to abstain. It sounds like nobody else is curious about the legalities, so I'm just going to abstain.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor to support the YMCA expansion into Jefferson County. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion passes 4-0 with 1 abstain. Thank you very much for being here. And
Thank you.
good luck with Harper's Ferry later this evening. All right, next up, we have the Deputy Superintendent for Instructional Support. Good evening, Mr. Banks.
Good evening, everyone. So I want to start off tonight by telling you that this week is Celebrate Freedom Week in Jefferson County. West Virginia State Code requires us to establish a full week that helps recognize Celebrate Freedom Week. The purpose of this is to educate students about the sacrifices made for freedom in the founding of this country and the values on which this country was founded. So all of our teachers have plenty of resources in their hands to help along with this week. There are three primary goals that are related to the instructional side of things, and those are an in-depth study of the intent, meaning, and importance of several documents: the Declaration of Independence, the Emancipation Proclamation, and an emphasis on the Bill of Rights. Secondly, it uses the historical, political, and social environments surrounding each document at the time of its initial passage or ratification. And then finally, it includes the study of historical documents to firmly establish the historical background leading to the establishment of the provisions of those documents, the Constitution, Bill of Rights, by the Founding Fathers. So I just wanted to mention that to you. This is Celebrate Freedom Week and the entire week, with Constitution Day being on the 15th of September, which is Friday. So I wanted to pass that on to you. Secondly, I would like to introduce a couple of exceptional Jefferson County Schools math teachers: Barbara Zing, Washington High School math teacher, and Crystal Mua from Shepherdstown Middle School. She's a math teacher there. So they're going to be talking to you about M3T, which is a state initiative of which they are both a part of. And they are also going to be telling you about their work that they're going to be doing to help our other math teachers become even more knowledgeable and sharpen their skills. So ladies, come on up. And thank you for being here tonight.
Hans, could you put the first slide up, please? Okay, so M3T, Dr. Bishop, Board of Education, you may have heard of it. You may have heard of it when both of us were selected as fellows in this program. It was in the newspaper. M3T is a state initiative designed to increase West Virginia students doing math. Not just doing school, but doing math. And I am proud to say I am a first-year fellow, and Crystal joined as a third-year fellow. So it is a 5-year program that is funded by the National Science Foundation. And next slide.
So M3T stands for Mountaineer Mathematics Master Teachers, and there's over 40 of us in the state of West Virginia. We're actively learning from each other. This is different than any other professional development I've ever seen. And so by actively learning, we are researching constantly. We're doing this research with our students, for our students, from the ground level up from our classrooms, and using something called improvement science. Next slide, please.
So this is where we are, and you'll notice there aren't a whole lot of counties that are honored to have 2 fellows in their county. We do, Berkeley does, and then there's a couple others, but we are spread out throughout the whole state, and we're hoping at some point to cover the state. We have 44 current fellows, middle and high school teachers, 29 counties, and each of those fellows is charged with creating a local improvement team where you get other teachers in your schools and districts to come alongside you, and you share what we do as a fellow. It goes down into the ground. So we're hoping to reach many, many more teachers and many more students.
So what are the benefits of M3T? The main one is the first one for me. While nationwide there's many teachers who are burnt out, I'm able to tell you that I'm not burnt out. and a lot of it's due to M3T. And so we are constantly being inspired by each other. That word is a constant word that we hear. In fact, after we're done presenting, I'll need you to excuse me because we have our 8 o'clock Zoom tonight. We do that on every other Monday night. And that word inspiration and inspire will come up tonight, I can guarantee you.
My first year of the fellowship was COVID year, and I was at home. I taught from home the entire year. Had it not been for these teachers in M3T, I would have been done. But I knew that every 2 weeks I would talk to them, we would share our struggles, we would share our successes, we would lift each other up, and we just keep being jazzed about what we do. So one of our goals is to provide leadership opportunities for classroom teachers. Not everybody wants to be an administrator. I certainly do not want to be an administrator. That's not my calling, that's not where I belong. So by starting these lit groups, these local improvement teams, stepping out to things like department chairs and things like that, you can stay in the classroom where you're reaching the kids, but also have leadership. We also are looking at impactful improvement of mathematics instruction. And what we do is tune in on a little thing, try and change a little thing, and then see if it works. We also share strategies. This is a rich group of teachers. They've all been hand-selected to be fellows in this program. It's a pretty rigorous investigation. I know when I was interviewed, the question about where I am in my journey, because I sort of am near the end of my journey, and I said, I've still got gas in the tank, and as long as I've got gas in the tank, I'm going to keep going. And one of our leaders is Joanna Burton-Kinderman, and if you ever have a chance to meet her, I would follow her anywhere to do anything, because she's just amazing. So because of our work, we've gotten some national recognition for the M3T program. It is groundbreaking in that teachers in the classrooms are doing the PD for other teachers in the classroom, testing it with their students, and figuring out what works. Next slide, please. So this is me. Okay, so what we do is we have an expression, what's bugging you? You ask any teacher in any classroom, what's bugging you? What's not working? And then we pinpoint something that's under our control that we can have an effect on. Next slide.
So together we work to make changes. This professional development is ongoing. It's not just let's have a one-time speaker and be done. This is something that we're constantly working from that ground up. We get to take ownership. It's very empowering, as she was saying, with figuring out what bugs us, what our changes are. So we put some bugs in our presentation here today. Next slide.
So our common problem throughout the state is not enough students are doing math. And by that we mean, are they using mathematical reasoning to know why, not just how? We want them to communicate their thinking and critique the reasoning of others. If you got a problem to work, how did you get it to work? How can you share what your strategy was? There's not just one path on the mathematical journey. There are many paths. We teach them to engage and persevere in solving complex problems. Both Crystal and I use a strategy called vertical whiteboards, where you send the kids to the board with the problem, and together in groups they work on those problems. We also want them to make connections between mathematical concepts and real-world concepts. And I can tell you this year I've had nobody say, when am I ever going to use this? And we do so primarily, I mean, we still follow the standards, we still are doing the content we're supposed to do, but we're trying to do it in ways that meet the children that we're teaching, that get them engaged, that get them excited, that get them doing math. Next slide, please.
So the improvement science, what we do is something called PDSA, Plan, Do, Study, Act. And so first we need to plan what's bugging us and what's that change idea. We then implement it for about 2 weeks. We study our data, and then we need to decide, did we like it? Did it work? Are we going to adopt it? Or should we adapt it or abandon it? And so that's our PDSA. Next slide.
So some of the things that were bugging us is students were not talking about math. And so one of the first things in the first year of the fellowship is we use what are called what do you notice, what do you wonder kind of problems. And we're going to have you do some math. And we're going to do which one doesn't belong. Next slide, please.
Okay, so now it's your turn. We'd like for you to participate if you would. What do you notice? What do you wonder? How this works is, what do you notice is what do you see? What do you wonder is what do you question? What are you curious about? There's no wrong answer. And so this should make it a safe environment. All of our students are able to participate. So who has a notice and/or wonder? Anything?
How fast can it go?
Excellent. How fast can it go? Thank you, Ms. Joy.
Where's the ground?
Oh, amen, Ms. Kenner. I agree with you on that.
How many people can it accommodate?
Yes. How many people? What's the capacity? Okay.
How many carts are on there, and if you took some of them off, could it go faster or slower?
Love it. Nice job, Ms. Ogden. Okay, so what happened with this was supposed to actually have been just an estimation type of bell ringer. And the question was, what is the capacity? How many could it hold? Well, my afternoon class came in, and they started asking me all these questions. Whole lot of questions, and it wasn't the capacity. So I thought, okay, change of plans. Turning this into a notice and wonder. Go to the big boards, as I call them. And that's what they wrote. How tall are the support things? You know, how many pointy things are there? How many carts, et cetera, et cetera. They had a ton. That's only a sample of what they wrote on the big boards. And then I was able to narrow it down to the question of the day, which was the capacity. But they had their curiosity that day and actually every day. Amazing group of kids. Thank you for your participation on that.
Next slide, please. So this is a which one doesn't belong question. And I frequently do these with my students, and there is no wrong answer as long as you can justify which of those numbers you think doesn't belong. In the first quarter, I asked the students to pick one. In the second quarter, they have to justify two. By the third quarter, they're justifying 3 out of the 4, and by the fourth quarter, they have to find a reason why all 4 quadrants do not belong. Who's got one?
43.
Why?
The easiest, because the other 3 are perfect squares.
Okay, who's got another one?
16, because it's even and the rest are odd.
There you go, another one.
9 is a
Nine.
single digit.
Yeah, single digit.
Single digit,
Mhm.
good. How about, did you notice that some of them add up to 7?
If you add the digits.
If you add the digits? So this is the kind of rich conversation that this kind of activity fosters. All right, next slide, please. So one of the things that I noticed and that I worked on last year with my lit was that students weren't making connections. If they saw a graph, they couldn't make connections to an equation, to a table, to a real-life situation. So I created something called the high five protocol. Next slide, please. And so what we would do is we would start with a simple representation, and each student was responsible for coming up with 5 descriptors. And it started very simple. It's a line. Good, it's a line. Then we started giving them little prompts. Is it rising? Is it falling? What are the intercepts? Just getting them to think of more than one thing about a stimulus. And the stimulus can be set for any topic that you're teaching. And I presented this last year at WVCTM, the West Virginia Conference. And I had calculus teachers saying, ooh, I'm going to use that. And I had math 1 and middle school teachers saying, ooh, I'm going to use that. Next slide, please.
So as a network, we've been sharing these small changes, and when you're sharing them across the state, it's making a big impact.
We need to build more of these small changes, test one another's best ideas, and we do that. Different groups all over the state will be working on different things at any given time. We share out what we're working on. In one of our meetings, like we'll be online tonight from 8 to 9, both of us will have copious notes of things we want to try that we pick up from other fellows. And it helps us support each other. Education is a tough gig right now. It's a difficult time to be in education, but we support each other.
And then afterwards, we can't go to sleep because we're way too inspired.
That's true, too. Next slide, please. Now, this is from last year's WVCTM. I've been blessed to have a person come alongside me for the last 2 years as my lit member, and we were wearing Sultan of Statistics and whatever for the banquet. And this year, I hope to enlarge my lit to 3 members. And Crystal will be starting her lit. She's also hoping to get 3 members to join her.
Yes.
Next slide.
So one of the things we do as fellows is we observe each other. That's a picture of myself and Josh Jones. He's from Berkeley County, and he came to observe me. And as you can see, he also taught a small lesson. That was the same group of kids, by the way, that did this Notice and Wonder with the Ferris wheel.
And we go into each other's classrooms, and M3T pays for the subs when we travel. And Crystal came and observed me and took wonderful notes and made wonderful suggestions. Have you thought about doing this? And this kid, because I asked her to watch for engagement, watch for kids who were disengaged, and what happened to bring them back, or what could I have done to get them back engaged. And she had notes, brown shirt, tuned out here. You called on him. He was back in. And those are the kind of things that you just don't get unless somebody comes in for the whole period. And these, when we travel, we usually spend the whole day with somebody. So we see lots of different people. Next slide, please. So this is from my class this year, second week of school, first week of school. And I sent the kids to the boards, and I have a class of 30, and so they're everywhere writing on everything. I put whiteboard paper on the back of my rolling metal cabinet, and that's station 10, and they're solving a problem. And everybody is engaged, and they're all doing math, and they're all sharing, and these are people they don't know, brand new students. Next slide, please.
So as mentioned earlier, we're both having local improvement teams. So we have it at the high school level and at the middle school level. For me, I'm going to have a teacher at Shepherdstown Middle, one at Wildwood Middle, and I also have one at Washington High who she just transitioned from a middle school, and so I'm ready to go with my lit. Also, we have another goal is to continue to find and use the routines to encourage them to do math.
And we are always looking for what's bugging us and what we're doing well. What's working in one classroom in Pocahontas County might not work in our classroom in Jefferson County, but a version of it might. And so we thrive off of each other. We really think that those classroom observations are wonderful. And again, M3T covers the cost of our substitutes while the fellows travel. Next slide. Statewide goal. This is the stated goal of M3T, to have more than 200 middle and high school mathematics teachers across 100 West Virginia schools, regularly engaging in teacher-led and continuous network improvement, resulting in increased opportunities to do mathematics for 20,000 students by 2026. It's a lofty goal, but we're getting it done. Next slide.
Do you have any questions for us?
I have statements.
Or statements? Okay.
I like what you said, doing math. Today, I realized these kids that I was working with, they don't have any kind of relationship with numbers, and they don't even have the muscle strength to write out their, the fours facts. And, I mean, their hands were tired, and I just wanted them to see the pattern. And anyway, so I could relate to everything you said. And I'm in a similar program, but it's a pilot, and it's all free. And we meet with teachers, and it's all West Virginia teachers from all over the state. And it is very helpful and comforting and amazing to find out what other teachers are doing in these small counties, hours away. And we meet up at Stonewall Resort and a couple times a year. And we're doing economics. And the idea is that if teachers know economics, then they will teach children, and then we can change West Virginia.
Is that part of the INVEST program?
No, no, yeah.
West
no.
Virginia Department of Education is a supporter of M3T. And through it, many of us have gotten wonderful experiences with the Department of Education. I was privileged to work on the standards revision that are coming out, and teachers had a voice in where the standards should be and what they should be, and that was very exciting.
The networking is really a key, and the observing of each other is powerful.
Yeah. I mean, teaching can be a very isolating experience. You go in your room, you close your door, and you're by yourself. And
You got to get comfortable with your colleagues observing you as
It's a
well.
little scary to have somebody come in and watch you. I will say that.
I think it's exciting. I mean, I know obviously math is a situation where it's difficult to find teachers. So I'm very thankful, Ms. Singh, that you are staying longer and longer. That's good. That's good for us. And that not only are you just staying, but you're staying and looking to challenge not only your students, but yourself. And, you know, I think that's just wonderful. And it's a great example to so many others who I'm sure, you know, are watching you, and the number of committees that you sit on and the way you invest yourself just says a lot about you. So I just want to say thank you, first of all. And I love this program. I think it's great. I think it's great that we have people that want to be engaged like that. Like both of you, thank you for the presentation. And I mean, I know I've kind of beat this drum a little bit before, but I like this idea even for the fact that you've been able to work out some of the kinks, to be able to get those videotapes, even if it's from, you know, somewhere else in the county, that, you know, to have some kind of a portal that we could put together to where we have these new math teachers, and to think about them being able to plug in a video that would teach a concept that you guys have taught. And, you know, you're teaching it, they're learning at the same time. They're not asked to come up with all of these ideas all at once because you've already blazed the trail. And then they can learn and teach at the same time. And I think that to us is going to be the key to the future, especially as we continue to unfortunately lose more staff, that at least if we can take the great ones that we have and say, hey, you know, help us out, be able to train the new ones coming behind you would be just a fantastic way to leave that legacy behind. So I'm just really thankful that you guys are doing it and taking the time and needing to be at a meeting at 8 o'clock when you've already taught all day, so, and that you want to go to. So thank you very, very much.
Unfortunately, the West Virginia Department of Education posted that 57% of middle and high school math teachers are uncertified right now.
Yeah, we see that. We see that. I would much rather have you as a certified teacher being able to teach that concept.
Mrs. Bratton, did you have something?
Yes, I think it's a great program. I really like, you know, everything you said. However, I would like to know, like, how did you determine which schools would work with this and which ones wouldn't? Because you brought up 2 middle schools, but you left out one, and then one high school and left out the other. So why wouldn't it be for all middle school and both of our high
Well,
schools?
it's a voluntary program to be a member of a LIT. It requires after-school meetings for a minimum of an hour a week. We invite everybody, and we get people who are willing to do it and other people who aren't. I had some people from Jefferson last year who were interested, and then when they realized it was finding ways that they could change to be a better teacher rather than finding ways that above could change to make their life easier, they said, it's not for me.
And for me, this is just my first year of getting my local improvement team together, so 3 sounds like enough for me, including myself, it's 4, but I can expand more the next year and the year after that, you know, depending on funds, because that does come from you all to pay them, the local improvement team's time. But I can certainly expand it more as well.
Mr. Banks says there's grant money involved to pay our LIT teams, and as soon as we get those grants applications filled out, then we can start work.
Yeah.
Nice.
In Berkeley County, I know of a fellow who has 8 on her team, so I need at least a year to get my lit started, get a year of experience of that, and then I can make it
I was
bigger.
going to say, this will be my 3rd year, and up to now, I've only had one person who was willing to come alongside me. So,
Thank you to them.
Okay, thank you.
all right.
And I appreciate you. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And, it sounds like instead of bottling inspiration, they're filling gas cans full of inspiration to refill your tank. So that's a good thing.
So far, so good. Okay, thank you. Have a
Thank
good evening.
you.
I just want to also say, we know how precious time is, and your total admiration for your commitment to the students and to yourselves and also to other staff members. We really appreciate what you're doing. So thank you for being here tonight, too.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Banks. All right, next up, we have action on semester exam policy. And the exam policy was back out for 2-week comment.
Excuse me, it was, and we doubled the number of comments. I think Hans shared that with you on Friday. So we're well over 100 comments now. The last meeting 2 weeks ago, we had about 50. I did notice in reading the comments earlier that there were a number of students who weighed in. The information that was provided to you has a slight error. Fall semester should be 3%, spring semester 10%, but I have verified with Dr. Ebersole, who worked diligently to put this together, that the fall semester numbers and spring semester numbers are correct. It's just a matter of those percentages being in the wrong column.
Mr. Ebersole,
Oh,
would you
Dr.
like to
Ebersole.
weigh in on this?
There is a bit of late breaking news. As you know, the original numbers were provided to us by Dr. Jennifer Rowan, who is no longer with us. So
Could you speak in the microphone? Sorry, it's hard for me to hear.
I'm so sorry. I am soft-spoken, as you mentioned before. So again, as you would know, the fall numbers were compiled by Dr. Rowan. And when Dr. Bishop just asked me about the numbers, what she did, unbeknownst to me, she was helping us to create an apples-to-apples comparison. So here's the deal. It was 3% in the fall. However, she adjusted the numbers that you're seeing on the chart. Those are adjusted if it was 10%. I simply calculated the numbers based on the methodology that she used to produce the numbers for the spring, if that makes sense. So you have an apples-to-apples comparison, so it's 10 and 10 in terms of the chart. Does that make sense?
No, not at all to me. Doesn't to me. What are you saying? That the spring says 3% here.
But it's not. It was 10% in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers for the fall, when, yes, the weight was actually 3%. However, the numbers were adjusted because we were trying to do it so you could have a side-by-side comparison, because otherwise it's 3 and 10 or 10 and 3. This way, everything is 10. Does that make sense?
The fall is a what if.
It's the what-if scenario. If it were 10, those are the numbers that would be at 10. And that was not communicated to me. So that's just the clarification, but I've been having a vigorous conversation with Dr. Rowan on my phone. So I hope that makes sense. Thank you.
But if the point is to see the difference between the 3% of the exams weighing 3% versus exams weighing 10%, then this is not useful, since these numbers have now been weighted differently. Because the idea is, will it impact students differently if it's 3% versus 10%?
And if I can clarify, the reason that is, though, is that if the presentation that was provided to you by Dr. Gibson in the fall, which I believe actually happened more in the winter than in the fall, if you remember her slide deck, they had adjusted it so that it would show the effect if it were 10%. And so that was the goal. Those were the only statistics that we've had, was it adjusted at 10. Those were the numbers that were shared with you at the time. So that's why I then was asked to calculate them based on the current scenario, which was then 10.
So what would the real numbers be then?
Well, we can pull them if that's the board's wish, and I would defer to Dr. Bishop for that.
Well, back to the policy that was out for public comment and the public comments that were made, it seems that the overwhelming number of comments were to follow the committee's recommendation and not have exams. So at this point, what we can do is put a motion on the floor and then have discussion. Is there a motion to accept the semester exam policy as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any discussion?
Yeah, I think we need to remove that last sentence. As such, Jefferson County Schools neither endorses nor administers semester exams. I think that we need to leave it up to teachers. We need to give them the professional courtesy to decide whether or not they want to give exams. Some teachers may feel the need to give an exam, and they may want to just let a test count double and call that the exam and not interfere with WEVIS in any way. But leaving this statement, it just takes away the authority of the teacher. So I think there's no point in having that. There's no point in saying you're not allowed to give an exam.
I think it says, though, you're not allowed to give a semester exam. You're definitely allowed to give, as you just said, any exam you would like that could count towards an end-of-the-year exam if that's what you chose to do. But it's addressing the question that we asked the committee to go out and look at, which were specific to semester exams.
Yeah, and I think teachers should be able to give a semester exam. Like I said, they can let that count as 2 tests or 3 tests or 1 test. But this, the way that it's worded, it says you're not allowed to give a semester exam. And some teachers may want to give a semester exam. And I don't see why the board should make a statement that we don't endorse semester exams. What's the point? I mean, what is the point of taking away a teacher's right to give an exam? If so many teachers don't want to give exams, then they just won't give them. But if there are qualified teachers, and we know that several wrote in, certified, qualified teachers who feel that they may want to give the exams, they should be able to give exams in their class.
There's nothing holding a teacher back from giving an exam during the quarter that is a cumulative test or on 1 chapter or 2 chapters or whatever that teacher sees fit. I mean, we're not dictating you may only give a test on, 1 chapter. There must be 3 quizzes per chapter. I mean, they have the autonomy to do that. So at this point, we put a policy out. We promised that we would put it to closure this evening because of the fact that we're already a couple weeks into the school year, and we have the public comment that you asked for, and the public comment is overwhelmingly say, follow the committee's advice. We formed the committee, and they were the ones that spent the time and the effort to actually study this. So I personally believe that we should follow the committee's advice at this point.
Yeah, and I personally believe that we could strike that last sentence, and that would be following the committee's advice, and it'll also give teachers the professional courtesy to allow them to give semester exams if they feel that they want or need to give semester exams. I mean, it's like it was already said tonight, it's difficult to find and keep teachers, and putting this statement in here, taking away one more right or of a teacher it defeats the purpose. We should be showing support of teachers, all teachers, not just a committee, but give the teachers credit if they believe that a semester exam is warranted in their class. They should be able to give a semester exam.
Well, we don't even have the capability with WEVIS to.
Yeah, I already explained that to you, that it doesn't have anything to do with WEVIS. They could say, we're going to give a semester exam. They let that exam count twice or something. You don't have to change Weebus. So, okay. You can't let
Canvas,
an
Weebus,
exam
I'm
count
sorry.
twice?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mrs. Zing, you're part of the committee, is that correct? Would you come to the microphone and give us some clarification on this? And I'm sorry for using Weebus as opposed to Canvas.
The way that we track grades is in a system, it's a learning management system called Canvas. Canvas was programmed to calculate by a certain percent, a separate category for semester exams. So it has an algorithm in it that figures out first quarter, second quarter, exam, semester grade. If some people are putting something in that category and some people are not, then you get into problems where them not being there might count as a 0.
Right. No, I understand that, and I have already addressed that. We don't use that column, but they could still put in under the end of second quarter, perhaps, a semester exam grade where they let the test count as twice or something, if they
As long as
chose
it's
to.
not in that
Right.
semester exam column,
Right.
the teacher can do whatever they want in their classroom.
Right, well, they can until this policy gets approved, because this policy says they're not allowed to give semester exams. So if we remove that sentence, then they can give a semester exam as long as they don't put anything in that column. It's not going to interfere with Canvas or Weebus or.
I believe that my colleagues would not call something in Canvas a semester exam. Why would you just call it an assessment?
Right, but if you're technically giving a semester exam, then you should be allowed to technically give a semester exam and call it an assessment. But if there is a school board policy that says you're not allowed to give a semester exam at all, then they're not allowed to give a semester exam.
I believe that the recommendation was a separate entity entered separately into Canvas that we spend a week preparing for and a week administering as a separate thing, not part of the second quarter or not part of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, we didn't discuss how any of it would be done. The only thing that we're talking about here is a policy about whether or not teachers have the choice to give an exam if they like. There is an option that doesn't interfere with Canvas, and it still gives teachers the freedom, and nobody has to give an exam. But if teachers wish to give an exam, they could still be allowed if we remove that sentence.
My sense from the students is they are expecting to hear either, yes, we're having semester exams, or no, we're not having semester exams tonight.
Well, I mean, then they could tomorrow go to their teacher and their teacher say, no, we're not giving exams, or yes, I would like to give an exam because I feel that we need to give an exam. So, that's up to the individual teachers.
The other piece of that I'm hearing from feedback from some staff and administration as well is that by doing that and not creating the policy that's very straightforward, yes or no, this is how we're going to move forward, it can cause a lot of different animosity as well in the building, with some deciding to, some deciding not, some teachers then doing that, some students not wanting to take this teacher for that reason or this teacher for that reason, and some staff then having to spend an inordinate amount of time doing that. Other staff does not. If you're giving a semester exam, you don't, and you're not doing it as a countywide initiative, you don't have the prep week, possibly, you don't have the quiet in your building to administer them, and it becomes an unfair situation for students overall. And I think to make it fair for students and for staff, it's a yes or a no, as you stated, Ms. Zing, and trying to possibly move forward with looking at some of those other initiatives and thoughts that some teachers have written in about, such as SAT prep during those times and things that are going to benefit teachers and staff long-term being able to try some different things to bring some of those different grades up that we want to see.
My understanding of the policy as it's written is there no prohibition for any teacher to give any assessment they choose during the second quarter or the fourth quarter of the year.
Or the first quarter.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but
correct.
it is. They can't give an end of the quarter grade. They can't give an end of the semester grade. And so that, if they were going to do that at the end of the second quarter, they wouldn't be allowed to, because it's worded the way it is.
They can give an end of quarter grade, they just cannot give a semester exam.
As
So-
a separate grade.
Correct.
Okay.
It can,
It doesn't have
there's-
to be a separate grade. It
So-
could be part of their second quarter grade.
So there's a motion on the floor to accept the semester exam policy as the committee wrote it and as we got feedback. Any last-minute discussion before we have a vote? Hearing none, all in favor of the proposed semester exam policy, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Oppose.
Motion passes 3-2. And we finally got resolution. Thank you.
thank you to the committee for the work
Yes.
that you did. Appreciate that very, very much.
All right, next we have new business action on the superintendent's goals for 23-24. And those are ones that we spent quite a bit on time on the other day with the help of the last phase of the search firm. Dr. Bishop, do you have anything you want to say about the goals before we go ahead and accept them?
No, they've been posted since Wednesday in an effort to allow people to see what the goals are for the year. I would suggest, as we discussed the other evening, that quarterly updates be provided November, February, and May. 3 months from today, basically 2 months from today, being that second meeting maybe in November, and then again in February, and then the final evaluation or the final submission in May, prior to the evaluation.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to accept the superintendent's goals for 23-24?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I'm just, the audit, you have till May 30th. When do you foresee beginning that process?
I had a conversation with Ms. Moss today in finance about the funding of that. So I have an answer to that. So now we can begin to look for the firm that will conduct that.
And I just want to make sure you're aware of these positions that are created through EPIC. So that's included too, correct?
Yes.
I think that's my only question there. Yeah, that's my only question.
All right, so the motion on the floor is to accept the superintendent's goals for 23-24. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, next up, we have board member comments and committee reports. Mr. Osborne?
I was glad to have EPIC at our West Virginia School Boards Association meeting, and she, the leader of EPIC, made other counties aware of what kind of services they can provide for them.
Thank you. Ms. Ogden?
No comments.
Dr. Joy?
Yeah, I have them here, but let's see, I have some written. First, I just want to recognize that, you know, this is 9/11. I think Mr. Banks was alluding to that we're celebrating Freedom Week, so I just want to recognize that. I also want to recognize this weekend, many of us will be celebrating Rosh Hashanah, the most important Jewish holiday. And so to be aware that some of our students celebrate this holiday. So there were several students that are recipients of scholarships. Jefferson High School, Mallory Hobbs. She won, she's one of the recipients, Peyton Dugan, Justin Gottlieb, Dana Spencer, Chloe Thomas, the Würzburg Family Scholarship. There's several from the East West Foundation that were announced. This the 17th at Shepherdstown Community Club from 2 to 5, the Blessings Closet will be giving away free homecoming dresses. And the other thing I wanted to, the employee that I'd like to recognize this week is all of our teachers, aides, cooks, bus drivers, and secretaries for a great first few weeks of school. And that's all.
Thank you. Mrs. Bratton?
Thank you. Congratulations to everyone that Dr. Joy just named. And that's all I have to say this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Bishop, do you have any superintendent comments?
Just a couple. First, the legal services report that was discussed at the last meeting. We are in the process of putting that together. There is quite a bit of detail work that has to take place in order to take the legal services invoices that we receive and to be able to tease out what the money was used for, whether it was a grievance, whether it was some kind of contract work. So I anticipate having something for you September with the legal firms that have been used over the past 5 years and the amount of money spent in each of those categories or with each of those firms. So that's item number one. This morning, and this is a late addition, but I feel it's important enough to mention. You mentioned at the beginning of the meeting the loss of a second student in 3 weeks in Jefferson County. So this morning at JLT, I mentioned, and I asked the question only 2 months into my tenure here, what have we done to be proactive to make sure that we can address these situations moving forward? It is important that we begin to think about this, and I know that staff has. So a couple of things that have been done already. Of course, Jefferson County was the first in West Virginia to have a social and emotional learning department to support growing mental health needs in society, which certainly impact our students. Secondly, in the fall of last year, a team of 9 Jefferson County employees made up of counselors, school psychologists, nurses, central office staff, and administrators from all grade levels began work to create a completely new prevention protocol for the school division. And then we've established a partnership that currently provides 9 of our schools with access to either a licensed therapist or clinical social worker, and are now working to expand those partnerships to remaining schools. I've had some community outreach to us, and I have put them in touch with Dr. Ebersole, and I know that he's pursuing that in order to see if we can further make sure that we're taking care of our students in the right way. I think we do a good job every day of trying to address the needs of our students. But we want to make sure that we leave no stone unturned. So I didn't want tonight to go without saying something about this and the fact that all of our staff is committed to making sure that we can address issues proactively. And then finally, for employees, we have the employee assistance program that people can avail themselves to if they have issues or need to work through some problems or need some assistance in some way. So there are some things that we've done. There are some things that we're going to continue to do to be able to make sure that we address not only the academic needs of our students, but also the social and emotional pieces as well.
Thank you. All right, and that would be it. Meeting adjourned at 7:15. Have a good evening.